All right, welcome to the Strong for Life podcast. I'm joined today by my awesome client, Jeannie. Jeannie has been in the program for over 6 months now.
Yes, it's
Nine
been like
months, nine
8 months,
months.
8, 9 months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she's gotten some amazing results. So I wanted to get her on to share her story. So, Jeannie, do you want to share a bit about yourself, where you are in the world, how old you are, so people can get to know you a bit better?
Okay, so I'm 72 this year. I'm an American dental hygienist living in Switzerland for the past 51 years and still employed. So, doing a repetitive job for a long time. I had some structural issues and trying to find a solution to get older and not be taking medication all the time. I like the natural approach that you guys have. Hygiene of life, hygiene of food intake, hygiene of
Mm.
sleeping, hygiene of routine. And as a dental hygienist, since I'm already a coach for the mouth, everything that you talked to me about seemed to pull everything that I know already, but maybe wasn't applying to myself. That's the biggest thing about us coaches, that we don't always take our own advice.
Very
So,
true.
so after speaking with you, I figured that I had to give it a shot because you have to put your money where your mouth is,
Yeah. Maybe
especially in my case.
let's rewind like 9 months ago, 10 months ago, and talk about like why you were out there looking for some solutions, like what was going on.
Okay, so I've been quite sporty my whole life. And at 60, I kind of decided that I was going to become a couch potato and use the remote control as my only exercise. And I got tired of looking at myself in the, mirror and going, okay, just getting fatter with hormone, menopause female issues. And so, looking for a solution, of course, everybody wants a shortcut, pills or injections or whatever, and I really didn't want to do it that way. So my premise is that as I see the world turning, I'd like to get older well before I
Mhm.
die in very good health.
Okay. And like, so after 60, basically, you went into a sedentary lifestyle. And then up
Yes.
until, let's just say, 12 months ago, like what position were you in? Like what was going on? Aches, pains? Like how was the body feeling?
So lower body hernias,
Mhm.
upper body shoulder displacement from my positioning in my job, knee problems from running too much in my life and in a hilly country. So really mobility was very reduced anyway from pain. And I'm going to say that really I was looking for how to be able to pick myself off of the floor if I fall because
Mhm.
I live alone. And,
Mhm.
to at least be able to get help by doing something to be able to get somewhere with a little bit of mobility. So that's basically how I was looking at it before I called you.
Yeah, yeah. And then you were saying like a lot of the stuff that was going on was work related as well. So maybe
Yeah.
explain to people like what was happening there.
So, having to take medication for my shoulder because of positioning at my job. I'm going to say a financial burden that's a mental problem as well. Probably not getting enough sleep because
Hmm.
overstress from the type of job I do. And uh, and so yeah, I was really searching for a solution, not sure which direction to go. And looking at the rest of my family who's living in the United States, all very overweight and chronic pain as well, like I do, but a different solution. I wanted a different solution.
Got it. Okay. Were you taking pain pills like daily or how
No,
frequently?
no, I
Okay.
wasn't. I was using some of those, anti-inflammatory creams sometimes when it got too bad.
Mm.
I was already doing sort of a yogish kind of stretching thing, but not disciplined, not enough, not often enough. And
Yeah.
and so the pain always recurred because of my job.
Gotcha. And yeah, I guess like when we had that conversation and you were thinking about coming into the program, like what sort of things were you skeptical about? Because again, different countries, online coaching, there's a lot of different like scams and everything. So like maybe tell us what you were maybe unsure of before you did come on.
So the other programs I had tried had a lot of artificial intelligence with a, like a, where you see that the body is artificially created and the voice as well. So those things turned me off because I'm older.
Hmm.
And then I tried an online coaching with a real coach, but I got an awful lot of community feed with, like hundreds of people. And then even if we had a community call, by the time they got to me, it was like 2 hours later. And by the
Mm,
time I've been listening to other people complain only about, how their programs weren't working for them. And for me, that kind of negative energy was not what I was looking for. I'm looking for somebody who encourages me rather than hearing other people's discouragements, and also a lot of excuses. And I'm not saying I've never done that, but a lot of excuses for not getting on board. And so my first
mm,
conversation with you made me see, number one, the human side of what you are trying to teach. Part of it also was from YouTube, where I had seen that you had talked about your own lack of mobility for certain parts of your body at your age. So I said,
hmm.
okay, so he's actually admitting that he's not perfect at 35 or whatever it was 2 years ago. And so that made me come back down to a human level, which is what I like about your program.
Okay, great. And yeah, so that kind of helped with the skepticism side of things. Then when you came into the program, what would you say was the first kind of big breakthrough where you're like, oh, this is okay, I took a jump. I wasn't sure what was going to happen, and now this is actually working for me. Can you remember like a specific thing that happened?
Yes, so the app that you have that works with your coaching techniques has the daily routine that was adapted quite a bit for me with all of my pathologies. And
Hmm.
then, encouraging Monday check-in and, like green light check-in, all of these things that I actually got an answer to right away, usually, even though there's a
Hmm.
6-hour time difference for some of my coaches. And,
Hmm.
it wasn't like taking a week to get back to me about issues like diet or sleep or whatever. So I got a much more rapid response from what I had seen, in the first few months that I joined your team. And so that's what I liked about it. That's why I decided to go further with it, because I got a rapid response and I got positive encouragement. Okay, so your
Hmm.
program adapted every time I had an issue with the pain issue. We took it back a step. We changed the routine. We worked until I finally got something that worked for me.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to touch on as well because when you did come in, I remember the shoulder was becoming quite an issue. So maybe you want to explain about that, and then we can kind of go into like the position you're in now. Because sometimes people just see everything is just an upward trajectory of success, but there are also ups and downs along the way.
Oh no, I've had a few setbacks. So my shoulder issue is job related because I have one arm that works and I have one arm that just holds lips and tongues. So it's,
Hmm.
a 7 or 8 hour day of just holding position. And the problem was, the static.
Hmm.
So almost everything you proposed to me in the beginning wasn't working that well for me because it provoked the pain part. So you brought it back down to a level that I could handle different exercises, and little by little worked up into a point where I could feel a pain release, I'm going to call it, meaning that it was getting better without it being 100%. And,
Hmm.
sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't work. And sometimes this is my own problem. Speedy Gonzalez, I wanted to go too fast.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that, in order to actually maintain and sustain what progress I've made, I had to be kinder to myself and take it
Hmm.
slower than I usually do for everything. So this is not you, this is me. And that helped me realize that at this age, I need to be kinder to myself and to take it slowly, take it more slowly.
This is a huge point to make, like, because it's always, in particular, the fitness industry, it's all like quick results, quick outcomes, and it is, yeah, it's a challenging part for coaches to keep you engaged and on track, but also safe, so you're not like pushing too hard too fast. Let's
Yeah.
talk about your wins. Like, what would you say 2 to 3 biggest wins to date?
So one of the exercises was the modified T-spine,
Hmm.
because I couldn't do a regular one. And now, even though mine is not perfect, it's definitely working better. And I have to do it every day, especially after work, to open up my thorax. I have my little elastic band for the opening up of my shoulders over my head, and a lot of the little gestures that I brought actually to work now. I brought my little exercise bands to work. I'm
Mm.
coaching in my office all of these young whippersnappers who already have back pain at 22 or 23 because of our profession.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to instill without pushing too hard. And I always tell them, look, I'm still working. I'm still working because I'm doing the work, you know?
Hmm.
So the mobility issue has been the biggest problem I've had because I don't want to stop working. I love my job. I'm like you, I'm a coach. I've had good success in the mouth. But then I had to put my own belief system with the way you helped me to see it. My belief system is you can't coach unless you do the work yourself. You have to be congruent with what you're preaching. So when I go to work and I take all that stuff to them, it's to help them not end up with all my pathologies, if possible. I'm part of a generation that didn't have this information. So that's a nice thing about having internet and having an online coach that's living in a different country. It hasn't posed any problem for me because we work out the schedule thing. This wasn't existent 50 years ago.
Mm.
So,
That's
so
amazing as well that you're passing on this information now, so they're going to be able to get ahead of this stuff, which is really nice.
hopefully, if they listen, you know.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
all have our timing, Connor. We always have our own timing.
very true. Let's talk about, yeah, so we're just talking about your wins. So how overall, like before you come into the program, lots of pain, lots of issues, lots of challenges with even working. So how are you now from like a pain standpoint?
Okay, so I still have sometimes some pain in my
Hmm.
shoulder. I have knee issues if I walk too much on not flat land.
Hmm.
I'm working with things that I've had to accept, meaning my knees are probably never going to be like when I watch your squats. Okay,
Hmm.
but there's abuse in my case, too much of downhill and running, and a lot of injuries. I've had 5 operations on my knees already.
Mm.
So there's a part of me that has to just accept. And
Hmm.
the pathologies that I have are not bothering me right now, but I'm looking to not replace any more joints if possible.
Hmm.
And so yeah, so I have some issues still, but mostly not.
Great. Yeah. And I guess the changes that have happened over this kind of 8 to 9 months, how have these changes impacted life in general?
Okay, so what the biggest thing is nutrition. All right. I wasn't eating that much, or probably not eating enough, not eating well enough. And so the coaching on the nutritional part and actually the sit down, put your fork down, meal planning, all of that. For somebody who lives alone, who's older, eating alone has been a big challenge. I listened to your AI seminar review that you did about, GPT chat. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I could have done that with just my own brain because I see what I have in my refrigerator. You just need a little imagination. So I'm still the older generation about
Yeah.
food prep, but the nutritional aspects of your coaching helped me to put myself back into eating regularly, sitting down to
Mm.
eat, even if I'm alone, preparing a healthier meal. I'm basically I've eliminated most of my sugar intake, not all of it, because I'm
That's
human.
huge.
So the nutritional part is that I'm eating a lot more protein, which I wasn't eating before. I'm preparing meals that are healthier. I live in Switzerland, which means I have access to very fresh food. And so that's helped me get my appetite back to something that I can handle without going on binging at all. There's still a part of me that likes sweets, okay? So I'm not denying myself 100%, but it's a take on, let's say, an 80% eating healthily, and then from time to time going off, a little alcohol from time to time, a little chocolate cake or
Mm.
whatever, and not being too strict and boring, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I've had to actually let my bar of where I think I should be down so that I can just enjoy life while I'm still here.
Yeah, and it's just the what you just outlined there about the nutrition side of things, just getting the like the big rocks, the 80% in. So then if you want to have a glass of wine or you want to have dessert, it's not going to derail your progress. And you're eating
Exactly.
consistently, you're doing the right thing most of the time. Like, that's the
Yeah,
magic with
and
nutrition.
I mean, I've had the photos that I've shared with Ray, which I'm not going to share online, but I don't see the progress because I'm hard on myself. And then I showed my picture from 3 months ago to Ray, and then I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, "Oh, I could take a new picture." So I've lost 6 kilos, which is for somebody who's under 1 meter 50. That's a lot. I see definition, bone definition.
It's
I
amazing.
see muscle definition, and that, if you don't eat protein, you can't actually produce better muscle tone. So
Hmm.
I've had to add, some vegetarian, some more meat, and that whole hygiene thing about, intermittent fasting,
Hmm.
and it wasn't really working for me. I wasn't losing any weight anyway before. So now I've got the 6 kilos off. So that's nice. I would love to lose more weight, but it doesn't seem to be coming off. So I'm just gonna say acceptance, be happy
Yeah,
that
well,
just be
that's
happy with
very
what I've achieved.
and the 6 kilos, and it also like that's muscle has been built, a lot of fat has been lost. And yeah, just the food habits and skills is very clear from talking to you that have been put in place as well.
Yes.
You were also talking about like, I guess like, 8 to 9 months ago, how do you feel now about working, come over the next few years versus how you felt like 8 to 9 months ago about work?
Well, I'm not discouraged anymore. I mean, nobody knows what tomorrow's going to bring. So
Hmm.
there's no high end, like, 20-year project in my head because I'm 72. But if I'm thinking about age, I think about not age. I think about just going forward and we'll see what happens. But I feel a lot more encouraged now to think that I can do it for at least another 3, 4, 5 years. And we'll see.
Yeah, that's really good. And like before, what were you thinking from a timeline standpoint?
Like, when am I going to stop working?
Okay. Yeah. Just because of the
Only
pain
like,
and
fear, mostly
yeah.
fear. What am I going to do for money? What am I going to do
Mm,
for fun? What am I going to do to have like a social life? Because a lot of my job, I've been in it for 51 years. I've had some of my patients for 50 years.
wow. Yeah.
And because they all have gotten results, it took an awful lot of stamina on my part to try and teach what is not being taught in Europe in general about full body health. And because
Mm,
I'm in the upper part of the body, which, I mean, it's not that you haven't addressed it, but I could teach you a whole lot about what you guys aren't teaching yet about whole body health and macrobiotics and stuff like that. And so you are what you eat, Connor.
yeah.
You are what you eat, and your teeth and your mouth are a reflection of what you put in your mouth. So,
Mm,
those things have been also put your money where your mouth is. So in order to be able to encourage my patients, I have to go through a lot of stuff myself first. In order to talk about things, I can't be a hypocrite. So
hmm.
that's what I like about you, is that you had issues as a young man and you had your own challenges of, whatever that you shared on Instagram or on
Hmm.
YouTube. And so that helped me feel a little bit less alone, I'm going to say, about the same issues that I have as an older woman.
Right. Yeah. I think it's like it's very important to, I think you understand stuff a lot better when you have the problem with a restriction or an injury, and then you get someone to help you figure it out, and then it's much easier to teach it, but also to empathize with how people are actually feeling.
Yeah.
Jeannie, I want to finish with imagine there's a woman out there listening. She's in her 70s, 60s, 50s, even 40s, and she's just feeling like she's starting to accumulate a lot of injuries. She's not confident maybe to do her work or just to rely on her body. What advice would you give to her?
You have to start somewhere, and that the first step is always the hardest. If you've ever had a jar of pickles, that first one is the hardest one to get out.
Hmm.
So the first step is taking one step and not looking at the big mountain, but taking in front of your feet, putting one foot forward and saying, let's just take that first step out. And, I think attitude, I saw a nice feed on Instagram with an older woman, 95 or 96, and I said, how did you end up to get this old? She goes, attitude and gratitude.
Oh, I love it.
So attitude and gratitude is what I would tell that first woman is, if you think positively, you're going to be able to take a step forward. That doesn't mean that you'll never take a step back, but that on the whole, if you look at that, foot forward thing, it does, you don't have to have a giant leap. You have to take one step at a time, and that, you only get results if you stay constant. You can't have this fast progress and not work. It's a challenge to your body, it's a challenge to your mind, The focusing on the positive is something that I work very hard to do as an older woman. And I'm not that old, but I'm still older than a 40-year-old. It's you won't find out until you put it to practice. You can't tell unless you actually act. So thinking about it is one thing, and then putting it into action is something else. And everybody has their timing, Connor. Everybody's ready when they're ready.
So attitude and gratitude, which I think is super
Yeah,
powerful, and then focusing on consistency. Um,
absolutely.
what would be one like habit that maybe we've done together over the last like 8 months? You think, okay, that would be a really good step for someone. Maybe they haven't done a lot of exercise, and that would be a good place to start. Something actionable that they can take away from listening today.
I'm going to say that by admitting that, we're not going to the Olympics, okay? We don't need to measure ourselves against anybody else. Our own challenges are one step, one baby step at a time. And that if you can accomplish even a little bit, then you have to be kind to yourself. That's my hardest problem, is being too hard on myself. So that first step is to accept that some challenges are going to be met, some steps are going to be going forward, and that, the one thing I like about your coaching attitude is that the coaches that you selected to work with you have very positive feedback. They don't
Hmm.
judge you. They try not to judge you. They try and just encourage you. And so that's, I think all humans need that, is a little bit of encouragement. And if you can't get it from yourself, then you need somebody like you, or, my coach Ray, he's a man. And so I shouldn't be coaching with him in some ways, but he's a certain age as well. So we have a little bit
Hmm.
more relatability. So your selection of coaches has helped me quite a bit.
Great. Yeah. I think that point, like self-compassion or lack of self-compassion, is probably the biggest roadblock I find for just from coaching over the years and for myself as well. Like, if you can just forgive yourself and keep going, that's generally going to benefit you the most, rather than like, oh, I messed
Absolutely.
up. Now I need to punish myself because I messed up, you know? And I think if people can get over that roadblock, it's huge. So that was a
Well,
really
I'm
big
not going to say I do it every day, because when I drop
point.
something 3 times, I'm yelling at myself, calling myself an old woman. So I have to still stay to myself. Okay, stop it, just stop it. I think
Uh,
I think humor helps, Connor. I think that not
yeah.
taking yourself too seriously helps quite a bit.
Yeah, and just for people listening as well, like that one kind of framework is really helpful is like in self-compassion, we look at like common humanity versus isolation. So that means like you feel like you're the only person who's messed up. Common humanity means that there's literally millions of people making that same mistake right now. And then it means like, oh, okay, you're not this like unique person that is just a failure. You're just it's part of the human experience. So just keep moving
Absolutely.
basically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing. Jeannie, thank you so much for sharing your results, your story so far, and maybe we'll do a check-in later in the year and see where you are, okay?
So my younger sister, I told her to
Uh,
check you out on YouTube, and she
yep.
said, "Oh, eye candy." And I said, "Yes, okay." So she's going to check you out. She might join the program, just so you know.
Very good. Well, hopefully she'll hear this podcast.